Hello, fourth graders. Happy Friday. I hope you're all wearing your Lakewood Spirit gear. Go Rangers. Today we are going to read the poem Playground, and we are also going to read chapters 17 through 20. Okay? I'm going to start with the poem Playgrounds, and I have to kind of read it off of my phone since I'm on my computer, so bear with me. When I was reading this, it kind of made me sad thinking about all the playgrounds that are closed around us, but not to be too sad because this will end. Stay strong. Okay. Playgrounds, written by poet Lawrence Alma Tadema, 1865 to 1940. In summer, I'm very glad. We children are so small, for we can see 1,000 things that men can't see at all. They don't know much about the moss and all the stones they pass. They'll never lie and play among the forests in the grass. They walk about a long way off, and when we're at the sea, let father stoop as best he can. He can't find things like me. But when the snow is on the ground and all the puddles freeze, I wish I were very tall, high above the trees. Okay, so that was our poem for today. And remember to work on slide 18 after this. And please share your poetry with us today. My homeroom shares it with me, and Miss Stibe's homeroom can share it with her. And then we split up Mr. Shields' class, so whomever you shared it with last week is who you're going to share it with this week. So if you shared it with me last week from Mr. Shields' class, share it with me again. If you shared it with Miss Stibe from Mr. Shields' class, share it with Miss Stibe again. Okay? All right. So we are going to talk about implicit questions, okay? And you should have talked about explicit questions with Miss Stibe not too long ago. And what an implicit question is it's a question that requires the reader to make an inference and to answer using text evidence and what you already know to make an inference or draw a conclusion. Okay, so I want you to think about that. And then slide 16 allows you to practice this skill on implicit questions. Okay? All right, let's get started. Chapter 17. As much as I was concerned about the baby's reaction to Francesca's words, I was more worried about Somer. What would happen when she returned from school and saw the word carved into me? Would she think it was meant for her and for her family? As Francesca and the police seemed to assume. She came home alone. Ahead of her by a few yards was Stephen. A reporter from the neighborhood newspaper was waiting on the sidewalk, interviewing people as they walked by. Word travels fast in our parts, especially when there's yellow police tape involved. They had seen what happened. The reporter kept asking, had they ever made wishes on wishing day? What did they think the word leave meant? The reporter approached Stephen. Did he know someone who would carve leave into the beloved local wish tree? Stephen stared at the reporter. Then he glanced behind Somer, sending her the shadow of sad smile. Without answering the reporter, he headed toward his house. Somer's eyes darted from Stephen to the reporter to me. She ran closer, saw the word, gasped. She reached a hand toward me, but the police put me out of reach. Are you a resident? The reporter asked. Would you like to comment on this incident? Somer didn't say a word. She turned and walked up the saggy steps to the little blue house, her head held high, standing tall, reaching deep. Okay, let's think about something from this chapter. Standing tall, reaching deep. What does this accomplish? Can someone be a silent supporter? Okay, chapter 18. Oops, wrong way. There you go. Around 6 that evening, Sandy and Max returned. When the police knocked on the door of the greenhouse, Stephen's parents opened it, and they answered questions. They shook their heads. They shrugged. Then they shut their door and closed their curtains. When the police knocked on the door of the blue house, Somer's parents opened it and answered. They rubbed their eyes. They sighed. Then they, too, shut their door and closed their curtains. As Sandy and Max headed back to their cruiser, Sandy paused beneath me. I wonder if we should make a wish, she said. Might be our last chance. I'll tell you what I wish for, Max said. I wish I didn't have to investigate things like this. Sandy patted his shoulder. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. As for me, I spent the evening hours reassuring the parents of offspring who called me their home. They weren't just worried about where they would have to move, of course. They were worried about me. I was worried about me, too. I didn't want to leave the world I loved so much. I wanted to meet the next spring owl nestlings. I wanted to praise the new maple sapling across the street when it brushed red as sunset. I wanted my roots to journey further, my branches to reach higher. But that's how it is when you know you love life. And I could accept that if my time had come. It had come. After a life as fine as mine, who was I to complain? I was worried about the babies, though, about their parents scrambling to find new safe places to line their nests, dig their burrows, hide their winter stashes of acorns. Most of all, I was worried about Somer. I don't know why. Perhaps it was because she reminded me so much of another little girl from another long time ago. A little girl I'd managed to shelter successfully. Francesca's great-grandmother. Like I said, we go way back. Okay, some things to think about from chapter 18. I wish we didn't have to investigate things like this. Will the world ever change? What do you think? Will it change? Is it inevitable that things die and we should just accept it? Chapter 19. Long after midnight, Somer came to visit me. She wore a blue robe. Her dark curly hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail. Her eyes held moonlight to them. She sat at the base of my trunk on her blanket. She didn't look at the carved word, or the splinter of moon, or the blue and green houses. She just sat quietly and waited. It always took a while, but it always happened. One by one, the babies ventured out to see her. Harold was first, flapping awkwardly down to the ground. The raccoon babies, you, and you, were next. Raccoon mothers are notoriously forgetful, so they don't bother with traditional names. The possums, the skunks, they all came. Somer sat perfectly still. The babies circled her. Together, they sat in the shimmer of the moonlight and listened to my leaves rustle. Bungo settled on Somer's shoulder. Hello, she said, in her crow version of Somer's voice. Hello, Somer said, echoing the echo. Bungo squawked, and Somer jumped up a bit. Even Bungo's quietest caw is a bit on the harsh side. Bungo flew up to the smallest hollow and poked her head inside, her tail feathers still visible, with something shining in her beak. She returned to the ground in front of Somer. Gently she placed a tiny silver key attached to a long faded ribbon in Somer's hand. It's beautiful, Somer whispered. Thank you. Bongo bent forward, wings spread in a short sort of bow. It was, in crow circles, a sign of great affection. I'd seen that key before. Bongo had inherited it from her mother. Crows live in extended families and they pass information across generations. It didn't surprise me that Bongo still had the key or that she decided to give it to Somer. In the sweet calm surrounded by everything I loved, moonlight, air, grass, animals, earth, people, I wondered, with a pang, how much longer would I be able to savor such moments? I wondered, too, if I'd done enough for the world. Trees, I said, are meant to listen, to observe, to endure. And yet, just once before I said goodbye to the world, what would it be like to be something other than passive? To be an actor in stories unfolding around me. Maybe to even make things a little bit better. Bungo, I said softly, are you awake? I am now, she grumbled. I have a question. I'll get back to you first thing in the morning. How does friendship happen? Bungo responded by snoring. I could tell it was a fake snore. Her real snores are so loud they scare the baby possums. I'm serious, I said. Bungo groaned. I don't know, it just happens. But how does it happen? Friends have things in common, Bungo said. And there you go, your answer in 5 words. See you in the AM, pal. I thought about her reply. But what do you and I have really in common? When you get right down to it and think about it. With a loud exhale, Bungo flew to the ground. Okay, I'm thoroughly awake now. Thank you very, very much. What is this all about? Just an idea. Here's an idea for you. Ideas are a bad idea, said Bungo, especially if someone is especially if someone is in busybody mode. I'm looking at you, Red. Back to my question. Why are we friends? Okay, fine. Let me think on it for a minute. Bungo walked in a slow circle around my trunk, considering. I love the way birds move, so unlike trees, we bend with the wind. We're graceful and unhurried. Birds, on the other hand, move in flits and twitches. Their heads whip from side to side as if they just heard some astonishing news. Bungo paused. Well, to begin with, you're my home, and I'm your tenant. But that's not really a reason for us to be friends. I've had residents I wasn't particularly fond of. That squirrel, what was his name? Squinch? The one with bad breath? It's not important. I knew it was Squinch. Bungo, I said, please focus. Bungo gazed up at me. We're friends because we're friends, Red. Isn't that enough? Her voice was small and sweet, not her usual get-to-the-point crow tone. You're right, I said, but I suppose 2 people needed to be friends. How would you make that happen? Maybe get them together doing something? They yak, share a laugh. Voila, a friendship. Am I right? I don't like it when you leads to new ideas. You can go back to sleep, Bungo. Thanks for talking. You're a good friend. Likewise, Bungo flew back up into her nest. Hey, be sure to let me sleep in. Bungo? Now what? One more thing. Why do you think people can be so cruel to each other? It's not like the rest of us are exactly angels. Last night I saw Agnes eat a whole lizard in one bite. Agnes, the barn owl who lived with her nestlings, and my highest howl, flapped her wings in annoyance. Hey, a girl's gotta eat. And you're a fine one to talk, Bungo, she said. Is there anything crows won't eat? My point, Bungo continued, is that the world's tough place. Doesn't matter if you're a bunny, a lizard, or kid. With that, Bongo started snoring. For real this time. But I was still wide awake. "Ma!" "What's that horrible noise?" came the startled voice of a baby possum. "That's just Bongo sleeping," her mother replied. Bongo had been right. I was hatching an idea. She always said I was a busybody, not to mention an optimist. An optimist, but skeeny. Well, there were worse things. Trees are the strong, silent type. Unless we're not. Okay, some things to think about from chapter 19. How does friendship happen? How do you think you make friends? Can a person simply change to be something they usually aren't? I'm sorry, that was chapter 20. I said 19. Okay, so that is our reading for today. And remember to please work on slide 16, talking about implicit questions. And remember, you're using text evidence to answer those questions and relying on your prior knowledge to things you already know. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I look forward to getting with Miss Stibe and hopefully reading a few more chapters to you. I miss you all so much. And have a great weekend. Stay safe with your families, okay?